Hello, it is Monday, October 2nd, 2023, and this is the Storytelling by and for Adult series, and it's a session on Monday, October 2nd, and I am telling the story of a screenplay I've written for a movie called Words from the Forest. Our story begins with, it's really a movie. I want you to visualize this as a movie. We're coming in over the bay towards lower Manhattan. We're just passing the Statue of Liberty on our left, and up ahead is the skyline of Manhattan, lower Manhattan, because we're coming from the south. And we're approaching Manhattan, and then next thing you know, we're on a busy Manhattan street. And we come to a building where it says School for the Future. And we're inside the school in a classroom, and a teacher comes in and says, class, please, quiet, please. I have here a form that you can take and fill out with your parents if you'd like to go for a 2-week educational visit to India, to visit with tribal people in the forest in the southern state of Tamil Nadu. So a number of the young people, it's 11th standard, so they're all 16 and 17. A number of them raise their hand and take the forms, and then there's a sort of collage where you see some of them showing it to their parents, and you know, it's going to cost some money. So the young people have to convince their parents, and then the young people are shopping to buy supplies. And there are 2 teachers that are going to go with them. A European-American man in his 30s, he's the drama teacher, and an Indian lady who has emigrated from India to the USA, and she teaches in this school in New York. She's a biology teacher, and she, together with the drama teacher man, are going to be taking a group of 8 students, 4 young men, 4 young women. And so we see them get on the plane and settle into the plane, and they all fall asleep. And then we have the opening credits, you know, as if they're watching a movie on the plane. These will be the opening credits. So the plane lands in Chennai late at night, and even at night, when the door of the plane opens and they step out, they can feel the tropical heat, you know, the humidity. And they come out, and the next day they go around Chennai. They go to University of Madras, because a PhD anthropology student is going to take them to his fieldwork village for them to visit with these tribal people that he works with. They also visit a computer company, which the executives there loan a special tablet computer to the team, which has a number of special qualities. It can do a video call from any place on Earth with the proper you know, support, and it has a universal translator. You can speak in any language, and it will show it either on the screen, or it will translate it orally into any language. It has a number of special other qualities too, but those are 2 of them. So then they all get on. Oh, and in Chennai, they're struck, as those of you who have visited Chennai or have lived in India know, that there's a lot of contrast in India. There are, you know, the latest cars, but there are also still bullock carts, you know, oxen pulling carts, still in Chennai. I'll show you some pictures at the end. A picture I took just the other day of a bullock cart outside my building. You know, they're big skyscrapers, glass and steel, but they're also huts in Chennai, you know, made of wood. And in some places, one of the pillars of the hut is a living tree. So there's a great contrast. Modern and ancient, artificial and natural, and of course a variety of people. There are business people, and there are people in religious processions, and all the rest of it. So so they see Chennai, but then they take the train to Madurai, and the bus up into the mountains near Kodaikanal. near the Palgot Gap. And there they all get off the bus, the 8 young people and the 2 teachers. And, I'm not going to have time to give you the full cast of all the characters, but one of the young people is a young woman who's somewhat autistic. And she doesn't talk very much. And when she gets off the bus, they have to walk from the main road on a path. It's a concrete path or a cement path, but they have to walk about half kilometer to get to the village. And as people are beginning to walk on that path, she sees a lizard up on a tree. And that lizard seems to be looking at her from her perception. And she looks at the lizard. And the lizard is totally still. So she becomes totally still. She joins that lizard in the stillness. And she may have stayed there for a long time, but the other students said, come on, we've got to go. So she snaps out of it. But she had that interesting union with that lizard. And so they get to the village where it's just one street, basically, with concrete houses on both sides. It's a modern village, but there's the old part of the village is on the side of the mountain where the buildings are just made of wood and all. But the modern part is there. And everyone meets, and they all go down to the river to say hello and celebrate. And the visitors see how the local people catch these little fish, very little fish in the river. And the way they're caught is you put out a cloth and chase the little fish into the cloth and then pull up the cloth and then wrap the little fish in a banana leaf with spices and all, and put the banana leaf in the ground where it's hot because there's been a fire in the ground. And they're hot rocks down there. So they have that meeting at the river. And then there are a number of scenes. One scene is that the autistic young woman is walking in the forest with a young tribal woman. These tribal people are very modernized because they have FM radio and cable TV, and it's not like they're in a totally different world. But anyway, one time the autistic young woman is walking, and she hears some birds. And the tribal young woman, a teenager also, says, "Oh yes, that's such and such a bird." And the autistic young woman is so, again, amazed, entranced. It's a bird that makes this melody, da 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 da, da 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 da. Those of you who live in India might recognize that as a certain type of bird. I don't know, but just like she connected with the lizard, she connects with the birds, although in a more passive way because she doesn't make eye contact with the birds. But okay, so that's going on, and one of the young women from the USA is a dancer, and especially loves modern dance, which is a particular type of dance developed especially by Martha Graham beginning 100 years ago. It was a rebellion against ballet, against classical dance, because modern dance, there was a lot of bending and twisting and breathing in and breathing out, and you didn't have to keep your backbone straight, and you didn't have to just face forward. So this young woman from the USA makes friends with a young tribal woman who leads a dance group in the village. This, I told you, they're modernized. This in this tribal village, they have a dance group that dances to recordings of Tamil cinema songs, which is largely rock and roll. And the dance they do includes breakdance, hip hop, And so the tribal young people have this group, and they go and travel around and do this dance to recorded music in other villages, both tribal and non-tribal. So the USA young woman who loves modern dance, she makes friends with the leader of the local dance group, and she explains, she sings a song. This is modern dance. We stretch, we contract. Modern dance is all about when you breathe in, you get big. When you breathe out, you get small. And there's a lot of twisting and stretching and reaching, all generated from the center of your body where the breathing happens. So she shows that and demonstrates it for the young tribal woman, and a number of the dancers are sitting around. So after she does this demo, the tribal dancers give it a try, and they do a number incorporating this bending and twisting and stretching and breathing with standard Tamil cinema dance. I think this is going to be a famous number, an important number in the history of Indian cinema, actually. Okay, so that's going on. There's a young man in the village, the tribal village, who a tribal young man who does not care about tribal culture. In fact, he's angry. He's fed up about tribal culture. He spends most of his time listening to cinema music from Chennai, and he edits the tapes, the recordings for the dance group to dance to. But one of the USA visitors is a Chinese American young man who is a rapper. He's Chinese American. He has dreadlocks, but he's Chinese American, and he talks to this young tribal man who's so bitter against tribal culture that what the Chinese American young man says is, I found some things in my heritage that were interesting and useful, Zen Buddhism, Taoism, and I incorporated into my rap. So I was angry like you. I found my heritage limitation, a limit, but then I realized I could use it. So my suggestion is to fix it, you got to mix it. The name of the song is Mix It to Fix It. So that's going on. It's just an intercultural thing. And there's a Native American young woman, a teenager, who goes to the old part of town and befriends a senior tribal lady and learns from her about medicinal uses of plants and what plants can be eaten. And so we meet the senior tribal lady through her. And then there's a scene where one of the young men from the USA is kind of up in the air about the gender or sexuality aspect. This individual thinks, I don't want to say he or she or they. I'm just going to say this individual. Not sure if this individual feels to be a male or female. So this individual goes off and walks in the forest and sings about how the plants, the trees are all different shapes, and there's such variety and diversity in the trees and plants. Why can't that be accepted in people too? But this person is finally overwhelmed with anxiety and afraid that this person won't be able to be accepted or anything, and just ends up sitting down and weeping. And just then the senior tribal lady walks by, and she says, "What's the matter?" And the young man has the tablet computer. So she's speaking in the tribal dialect, but it comes up on the screen in English. So the young man says, I shouldn't say it's a young man, but biological man, says, I'm upset, I'm confused, and and the young person is weeping. So the tribal lady says, and she hears it in the tribal dialect out of the tablet computer. So she says, we don't care if you're a boy or a girl, we love you. And that comes written on the tablet computer. So that's a touching scene, I hope. Well, all of this personal stuff going on is going on, but then one night, about 10 days into the trip, they decide to do a video conference with their school back in New York. So on the side of the mountain, the two wooden poles are hung and a sheet is hung. One quality of this tablet is that it has a projector built into it. And so they do a video call, a Zoom call, back to their school in New York. They talk to an administrator and they ask, how are things going in New York? And the administrator says, you didn't hear? There's a global health crisis. People are falling into comas. Millions of people are falling into comas. And nobody knows why, but it's the type of coma that after like 4 days, there'll be permanent brain damage. And we're in the second day. So the teachers and the students say, well, what should we do? Should we come back? And the administrator says, you cannot come back. All commercial flights are grounded because pilots were, what happens is a little blood comes out of the nose and then the person faints, passes out, goes into a coma. So you cannot come back because pilots were passing out and planes are grounded. How is it in the forest? Are people getting, is this happening in the forest? No, it's not happening in the forest. So the administrator says, stay where you are. You're in the most safe place. The senior tribal lady raises her hand and says, I think I know a way to bring those people back, to bring them out of their coma. But I really only want to tell it if a promise can be made that tribal people around the world will be permitted to stay where they are, and also that trees in the forests will be permitted to stay where they are. So the administrator in New York says, Madam, I'm just a school administrator. I'm not in a position to make such a promise. So they hang up. But one of the youngsters, one of the USA youngsters, contacts CNN, Global News, and the United Nations. And it's set up that the following night, there's going to be another conference where the tribal senior lady is going to tell her antidote, and it's going to be patched into CNN, Global News. But before that can happen, the following morning, there's an elephant stampede in the village because some villains were burning down some forest to extend their estate, and the elephants stampeded to get away from the fire, and the elephants went through the village and knocked down the tablet and stepped on and crushed the tablet computer. So all seems to be lost, but then a television crew shows up, a Tamil television crew, where they had seen the photo that had been shot when the tablet computer was given to the team at the computer company in Chennai. There was a photo which went into the newspapers, and this TV crew saw the paper and tracked it down, and they've come, and they have a transmitter that can be used to do the satellite transmission. But they say, do you have the satellite coordinates? And luckily, a young woman, a USA woman, who was a kind of a techie, she had backed up the satellite coordinates before the tablet was crushed. So they do the video conference on the second night, and the antidote that the tribal lady, they connect to CNN, and the president of the United Nations is also connected, and says, to the best of my abilities, madam, your requests are granted. So she says, okay, the people can do three things. You must sing a certain mantram to them. Usually mantrams like this are kept very secret, but in this case, she told it, she taught it. People could sing it in the tribal dialect or in English, but they had to use the right rhythm and the right melody. And then she said, you have to massage the people in a certain way. So she taught that massage. And then finally, she says, you have to get a certain plant and grind it and prepare it and put it on their skin. It's a plant that grows around the world, many places. So these three things, the song, the massage, and the plant, people start trying it, and it works. People start coming out of their comas. So they've saved the world. A couple of days later, the trip is over, and the visitors leave the village very sadly. They're sad to leave, but the tribal people say, "Yeah, come visit us anytime." But they go back to Chennai and they participate in a global video dance party, where people from many countries are connected by Zoom and dancing and doing electronic art. You can do it so that as a dancer's hands and body moves, electronic colors follow their movements, and so that happens with dancers and musicians from many countries by Zoom. And so the last 5 minutes of the movie is this art piece of this global video dance party. And that's it. I've gone overtime. I apologize. Thank you very much. All right. Well, our next storyteller is Lopamudra. Lopamudra, are you here?
Yes, Eric.
You are here.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, excuse me. All right. Well, usually I like to have some conversation after a storytelling, but I think in this case, since I've gone overtime, shouldn't do too much of it. Well, does anyone want to say anything?
Yes, me.
Yes. Forgive me, Lopamudra. At first, I just saw your name Mudra, and I didn't realize you were Lopamudra, because I don't think we've met before. Yeah, but okay, good. So I'm glad you've changed your screen name to Lopamudra.
Yes.
Yes. So do you want to say anything? Want to give any response?
It was wonderful to hear from you. And I could visualize the situation, whatever you have said. I could visualize how they were dancing and how was the modern dance and the lizard part that the stuck and the lady also stuck there. So those few scenes were there. I could visualize them. So it was wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Visualization is very important, both for the storyteller and for the listeners. So if a storyteller visualizes it, the listeners can visualize it too.
It's wonderful that it starts with the lizard, because the lizard story of gecko, everything is connected. And it's beautiful because like everything is connected, past and present, countries, people, everything is connected. It works very well with the lizard story, the gecko story, I think.
That was actually an experience of mine. When I did field work in a tribal village in that area 20 years ago. And
that was in fact, sorry.
When I first got off the bus, I had that encounter with that lizard. So I've recycled it into the movie. Manjiri?
In fact, that was my question, is it partially autobiographical?
It is, but in a roundabout way. I made up this story 20 years ago, long before the pandemic. This is I saw it from the future, and long before I did my field work in the village. But I've taken some details from the actual village. Here, let me just very quickly show you a few photographs relating to this story. Do you see there's the, that's the scene as we're approaching Lower Manhattan? Can people see it? The bay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And here is a scene from Chennai a few days ago, outside my building. Because somebody said to me, "Oh, Eric, there are not still bullock carts in Chennai." And I said, "Oh, yeah?" And I took this photo. So it's still going on. It's a cart full of mangoes. And then these are some people, these are my friends from 20 years ago. I visited the village a couple weeks ago because the school where I'm working now in Nagercoil is only about an hour away from this place in the mountains. So there is on my one side, the man with no shirt, his name is Mama, and he is a real forest expert. He knows all of it. Then the fellow on my other side, it was my research assistant 20 years ago when I did my field work there, Val Morrigan. And then next to him with the t-shirt or the shirt that says Attar, that's Vijay. And Vijay wants to also make a movie. He wants to make a documentary about they're the Kani people, the Kanikaran people. So he wants to make a documentary, and I hope he does it. And then my fieldwork assistant's mother is the model for the senior tribal lady, Raja Mal. These are pictures just from a couple of weeks ago. She is a shamaness. She goes into trance. And it's mostly women who come to her and they say, "How can I help my husband? How can I help my son?" Whatever it is. And she goes into trance and the spirit comes into her and the spirit speaks through her. So I don't know if she'll play the part in the movie, but it's based on her in a sense. Here's a not a very sharp picture, but that's a picture of Rajamal. So 20 years ago, I set up my tent on the side of the mountain, and I was going to study the way people were telling folk tales, grandmother stories, but my language ability was not enough. So I shifted to the way children were learning language and how they were using songs and games to learn language. Okay, I'm going to stop the share. And I really must stop. So I'm stopping the recording there.